What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, featuring that NCAA next mod, as well as we're going to go ahead, we're going to wrap up the regular season. Got a couple of games I wanted to show here in gameplay, and then also wanted to show the conferences that don't have conference championships, who gets the automatic qualifier, and then also preview the conference championship games that will be happening in the next episode. So got a lot going on this episode. Hope you stick around for the whole thing, and if you're ready for it, man, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new to the channel, as well as we'll jump right into it. First game on tap, we actually have Rhode Island taking on this Morgan State squad. Morgan State, a team that we have not seen all year, but we did see Rhode Island beat UMass and definitely take all of the win out of their sails in terms of trying to make it to the FCS playoffs. As early on, man, Rhode Island, they are doing their thing. This is what we saw last time that we experienced them in gameplay, as Rhode Island, despite being an option team, they come out here, 53-yard touchdown pass, and just had enough time to get that pass off, and that is going to be a touchdown for the Rams, as that will go ahead and make it 7-0. As now Stephen Maxwell, he's going to throw to the left hand side, but not a good start for this young man, as he throws a second interception here in this first quarter, and it ends up being taken all the way back to the crib, and it's going to go for a touchdown as well. So Rhode Island with a 14-0 lead, as Maxwell is going to try to pass his way out of it still, but at least drops that pass right in the bucket. Nice job on the out route, just dropped it right in there, as Maxwell starting to heat up a little bit here, but third and short. Rhode Island coming out with their goal line defense, as Maxwell he fakes the handoff, he's throwing downfield, he's got a man at the 5. Oh, he gets cut down at the 5, but what a great job selling that play action though, and it goes for a huge first down for the Bears, as they look for their first points of this ball game. Second and goal from the 1. Maxwell rolls to his right, he fires and finds his main man. Touchdown, Morgan State. And the Bears will go ahead and cut it down to just a one-possession game. But as we jump into the ensuing kickoff, if I'm showing special teams, y'all already know there is something that's about to go down, as that was not a good kick return, or at least the kick itself. The kick return, obviously a whole lot better there, as Jamal Franklin is going to notch his 20th career touchdown, in Rhode Island looking good here in their annual get-together of 21-7, but the winds of momentum look like they just might be changing, as this tailback Jimmy Silva gets it all the way down inside that 5-yard line, as Morgan State looking for their second touchdown. They almost got it here off the direct snap, my man just did not have the foot speed to pull away from those last couple of defenders. So we'll see if Morgan State can go ahead and punch it in. First and goal from the 4-yard line. They will give him the handoff once again, and the man had a really big run earlier. You gotta reward the guy, and it leads to another touchdown. As now Morgan State down by one possession. Here it ends up being intercepted. This could go to the crib, and we see Rhode Island not only get a touchdown, but we also see Morgan State get a defensive touchdown as well, both of which happening through pick sixes taken to the crib. So it's still all knotted up at 21 apiece. We're getting a very exciting game. I'm pretty sure it's more so because both of these defenses do not have a reputation of, let's say, being the best, to put it nicely. You want to say that, it's a little bit softer than Charmin. That's totally fair. I can definitely understand that, as that quarterback takes an absolute shot, but is still able to pitch it out to his running back, and that will get it into the end zone. Touchdown, Rhode Island. And that will make it 28-21 here in the first half. Dropping back, Rhode Island has the football again and gets it out on the curl. It's yet another score. 35-21, and we just might be on track for not only the highest scoring game that we've seen this season, but this might be the highest scoring game that we've ever had here in this FCS Dynasty. We'll see how the final score ends up, but for right now, Morgan State trying to mount some kind of comeback here, get some points on the board before going into the halftime locker room. And as Steve Maxwell does a fantastic job there of getting his guys in the red zone for their third red zone opportunity. And Maxwell will cash it in. Another touchdown for Morgan State. We'll make it 35-28 going into the halftime locker room, or at least that's what we think. That's what we believe, right? But there's still 22 seconds left, and given what has happened in this game so far, literally anything can happen here. And sure, no, it's fumbled. It gets fumbled. Okay, so we will end up seeing Rhode Island turn the football over one more time, and it actually does end up being a 35-28 game going into the halftime locker room, as we will go ahead and jump into the second half now. 35-31 now. Morgan State did get the football first to start this game, but they give up yet another touchdown. And this is what we saw from Rhode Island in that matchup against UMass. They jumped out to obviously a much bigger lead, 42-13, but they let UMass back in that game. We'll see if they have some kind of similar difficulties and a similar collapse in this second half. And Steve Maxwell, you know, even though he's on a smaller team, he's capable of leading such a comeback. But his guys are selling around him, though. A fumble is going to put it in the hands of the Rams, and they start out in the red zone as well. So this could be deep trouble for Morgan State here, as Morgan State did, I believe, lose this game last year when they got together. They meet up week 15 every year, so a little bit of a yearly tradition for these two programs. As turns out, Morgan State, they actually did bring their defense. They must have just forgotten it for the first half of this game, as we will see an interception in the back of the end zone. So Morgan State does end up getting bailed out. They are still in this game, only down by 11. Maxwell dropping back to pass. He's going to throw to the right-hand side, and it's going to go for a huge catch. Not a touchdown, but yet another red zone opportunity waiting for Morgan State, but facing third down. And it's a long one, too. 3rd and 12. Maxwell dropping back. He's got plenty of time in the pocket, and he's going to toss it in there. Touchdown, Morgan State. And this game certainly not over yet. It's now just a 4-point game. Definitely getting tight here towards the end, as Rhode Island, they bring their team out on the field, going with the option to the left, but that brother was absolutely creamed there, and it will be no gain. As now 2nd and 10, trying to run the option again, and it's the same result. Somebody getting crushed, and it even leads to more yards being lost here too, leading to 3rd and 12, as quarterback not used to throwing the football all that much. They throw it a little bit more often than most option teams, I will say that, but you know, those concepts are for the passing patterns aren't that great still. And Morgan State, they will get the ball back, and they get a chance to take the lead, and they just might do it right here on this drive, as Steve Maxwell is going to deliver this really beautiful football down the sideline, and it will get them inside the 10-yard line. They're facing yet another 3rd down. They've been pretty good so far on the day, and it's the second 3rd down touchdown that we get here in this game for Morgan State. And with 42 seconds left to play in the 3rd quarter, the Bears will take the lead. It's their first lead of this game. As we now jump into the 4th quarter of action here, still 45-42. It's been a track meet for sure. Fourth quarter, going to determine who wins this game ultimately. Maxwell looking over the middle, fires it, and it ends up being fumbled. And that fumble is going to be recovered, not by a Morgan State guy. Oh no, it's going to be recovered by Rhode Island, as that will prevent Morgan State from scoring, at least temporarily. But with less than 2 minutes left to play, Morgan State will eventually drive the ball back downfield, and it will end up being a touchdown that, at least on paper, should end this game. But we have seen a lot of offensive action so far, so I wouldn't put it behind me if Rhode Island still finds a way to come back and wins this game, right? So first I got to get this 4th down conversion, 4th and 9. They will need to convert this if they want to keep the game going, as we'll see a pass downfield, and sure enough, it's caught one-on-one, and it's a touchdown for Rhode Island. This game is not over yet, but a little bit of a interesting decision here. If they do end up kicking the ball off, because they had all of their timeouts, and Rhode Island will never see the football back ever again, at least within this game, as Morgan State wins a very exciting ball game. They win by a final score of 52-49. And Coach Kirby, you know, it's been a rough season for his guys. That has definitely been the case. A losing year is never fun by any means, but at least finishing out on top, you know, get a chance to be on national TV to end your season. And, you know, you put up a lot of points. It was a fun game to watch. Morgan State will finish the year 4-7, whereas Rhode Island will fall to 3-8 to end year 2. So, how about that game? Probably one of the most exciting games that we've seen in this entire series. Now, before I get into the final matchup of the regular season, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of other games that were also featured in Week 15 that I didn't want to show because I had a feeling these were going to be blowouts. And I was right on both occasions. Utah State, they went on the road to beat Elon 42-10, which means the Aggies will finish the regular season 10-2 and likely punch their ticket to the FCS playoffs. However, one such team that was ranked in the top 25 originally and will not be dancing in that FCS national championship is North Texas. They do finish the year strong, winning 42-3 against Southern Utah. However, North Texas at 6-5 is most likely not going to cut it in order to make it to the FCS playoffs. Now, we'll go ahead and jump into the final matchup here of this FCS regular season. I'll see you guys on the field for that preview. Now, the final game of the regular season is going to be the game of the week here in week number 15. We got UMass, who comes in 6-4. We talked a little about UMass in that first game, and North Dakota State, who comes in 10-1. So, you know, they technically could be done with their regular season, focus on the playoffs, but, you know, they did choose to play that 12th game. We'll see if, you know, they can get a little bit more game experience, especially for their backup quarterback, AJ Ferguson, who might have to start in the playoffs. So, you know, any experience you can get, honestly, you know, is advantageous, as Lee Corso is going to pick North Dakota State to win this game. Now, North Dakota State, this is not their first game of the week this year. They played in the week 1 matchup against Mid-Tennessee State to start the year, and they lost. And it looks like it could be the same result early, though, as UMass is actually going to go ahead and strike first in this one. The Minutemen are going to take the lead on the number 2 team in college football, North Dakota State. We got ourselves a game, and we know this is a game that UMass is capable of playing. We just didn't see that in the Rhode Island matchup that ultimately dashed their playoff opportunities for an at-large bid. The only way that an independent school could get a at-large bid to begin with. So definitely a tough look for sure, as Michael Sapp, he's going to get a 54-yard grab here that will put North Dakota State in the red zone. So they'll look to go ahead and get this thing all tied up before going to the end of the first quarter. But look at this. UMass is going to make the stand, and the Bison are going to have to go ahead and settle for a field goal. But now we'll go ahead and jump into the second quarter of action, as Grant Brown, he sits in the shotgun formation, gets it off to the fullback, And oh boy, did that fullback get absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree there. That will end up being hit. And look at this, the Minutemen, they have literally nothing left to lose in this game. So, you know, they're going to go for it. They're going to go for it. I love the aggressiveness. Unfortunately, it does not work out their way. But North Dakota State, they cannot score off of that turnover on downs either. So it does remain a 7-3 game. And look, this game early on, it was dominated by the defenses. It's been a very defensive game thus far as we get into the last minute, and it's more of the same thing. And what we've seen from North Dakota State throughout the season, they have had a very dominant defense. They have not allowed, I don't think, more than 20 points outside of that week 1 matchup. This defense definitely is worth it, as so is, you know, some of these offensive weapons. You know, the play calling might not always be the best sometimes, but it doesn't change the fact that, you know, when North Dakota State is lining up, they usually have the best players on the field at any given moment. And that showed right there, you know, being able to maintain concentration through the tip drill. And North Dakota State with the lead, but Grant Brown is going to throw an absolute dot down the right-hand side. And UMass is going to threaten here with a few seconds left to play in the first half. We'll see if they can find their way into the end zone one last time. 20 seconds left, getting it out to the tailback. Out of the backfield, breaks the tackle. And sure enough, the Minutemen are going to take the lead. A 14-10 lead going into the halftime locker room. UMass trying to get that upset alert going. We'll see if they can keep it up for all 4 quarters of football, though, because obviously it's not easy to do that against North Dakota State. Look over the left-hand side, and sure enough, Grant Brown drops another bomb, and look at this. This tailback is going to pull away. Touchdown, UMass. And so they score right before the end of the first half. And then they'll score again here to start the second half. That's what I like to call that double dip in action. And it favors the Minutemen heavily, as this is going to be their biggest lead of the game. Will North Dakota State wake up, or will they suffer their second loss of the season? Ferguson on the options, going to pitch it out to the tailback. Tailback down the sideline. It's Smith. One man went to beat. He can't beat him, but Leroy Smith is going to get his biggest carry of the day there. And that will get the Bison with another red zone opportunity, a chance to go ahead and make this a 1-score game once again. Is now 3rd down coming up. It's a 3rd and long, though. And the Bison have not been great in 3rd down conversions. 1 for 6 in this game. Ferguson drops back. He tries to move up in the pocket, but Ferguson is going to be sacked. And once again, the Bison had to settle for yet another field goal. It's 21-13 right now. UMass, their defense is absolutely legit, and they are showing it right here on national television. 3rd and 18 once again. Another collapse in the pocket. This offensive line, keep yourself in mind. We haven't seen the official All-American list just yet, but it's filled with preseason All-American guys. This offensive line is legit. And yet here we are, barbecue on the titties. UMass is winning in the trenches. I would have never thought of that, even as good as their defense has been, with the exception of the hiccup that did happen in that Rhode Island game. As now we get into the 4th quarter, it's still the same score, and UMass, they just get themselves yet another sack. I don't know if it's just because guys are just not getting open, or Ferguson's just not making quick decisions. It has to be a little bit of both, it seems like, as speaking of bad decisions, a critical turnover. UMass is going to recover the fumble as Ferguson was trying to get it out on the pitch to the custom recruit, Rod Montez, the true freshman 4-star. And sometimes it's just better to be lucky than it is to be good. It ends up being caught there. Multiple guys had their hands on this ball. We'll see how much is. Unfortunately, the replay from NCAA 06 does not show the tip drill, but I mean, UMass won it, man. Like, that is all that needs to be said. And it leads to a touchdown for the Minutemen. It's 28-13, especially after the extra point is kicked. And not to mention North Dakota State, they go free and out. So now they're really relying on their defense right now, just so that they can get the ball back, just to have a little sliver of hope. But it's not looking good for the Bison, man. 31-13 is the score right now. Not only is North Dakota State losing, but they're losing convincingly right now, as hopefully this last drive I'll give them something to feel good about, as they're not going to have a conference championship because the Pac-10 at the time did not have a conference championship, so they don't have to worry about that. That being said, though, what we do end up seeing is you're trying to build some momentum into the FCS playoffs, and taking an upset before the end of the season, not a good look, as at least the Bison will score on their last possession of this ball game. Rhode Montez is gonna make this really nice catch actually in the back of the end zone, and it just makes you think, what if, man? What if UMass did not lose to Rhode Island in the middle of the season? They would have finished 8-3, and you're solidifying the season with a top 5 record, or with a top 5 win on the road as well. Maybe that would have been enough for UMass to make the playoffs, but unfortunately that loss to Rhode Island really killed their momentum, it seemed like, and that is definitely a tough pill to swallow. But UMass, they do at least finish the year on a high note, winning against this top 5 team in FCS college football. We'll see how much it shakes the polls up. So we have witnessed 15 incredible weeks of FCS football, and now we get in to narrow down the teams that might very well make it into the FCS national playoffs and fight for an FCS national championship. Now, even though we are moving into conference championship week, there are some conferences that do not have a conference championship. So we'll go ahead here. We will check out the conferences that do not have a conference championship and therefore have just crowned their conference champions. So we start off in the Big Ten Conference, and listen, this is really no surprise. Tennessee State, they finish undefeated in the Big Ten Conference. They're also 9-2 overall, so they get that Big Ten championship nod. They will be a team that gets into the FCS playoffs as a automatic qualifier. It will be their first appearance. The question is, where do they end up getting seeded at? This is a team, that could do some special teams things, right? They did lose to New Hampshire. However, they did also lose to Indiana State. So, this is a team that could possibly play with anybody, but also, lose some head-scratching games if need be as well. So, we'll see what we get from Tennessee State in the FCS playoffs. However, another team from the Big Ten Conference that should be in is Southeast Missouri State. They finished the regular season number 14 in the country. They should be feeling pretty good in terms of making it into the FCS playoffs as an at-large. One conference, however, that will definitely not be getting any at-large bids this year is the Ivy League, representing the Big East Conference. Once again, looking at all of these teams, not only do we not really see anyone get ranked in the top 25 at any point this year, but at the same time, no one finished with more than 7 wins this year, but someone had to win this conference, and this year the Brown Bears, they're able to win for the second time in this series. So Brown, they finished with a 5-2 conference record. They did tie with Yale as well as Penn, but they did have the tiebreaker. So ultimately, Brown does get the nod, and they will make their second FCS playoff appearance in this series as the automatic qualifier for the Ivy League. As for the Mountain West, of course, no surprises there. San Diego State, they win the Mountain West Conference as they finish undefeated, and they blow away the rest of what was really a mediocre conference this year. No one else, gets more than 5 conference wins this year, but no one finishes with less than 2. So I guess after San Diego State, there's the good balance within the conference. But San Diego State, not only number 1 in the conference, but they also will most likely get the number 1 seed not only this year, but this will be the second year in a row that they will get the number 1 seed in the FCS playoffs if this current ranking does hold up. As for the Pac-10 conference, despite North Dakota State's really difficult loss that they did partake in, they still finish in the top 15, and they are going to be conference champions. So they do get that automatic qualifier, undefeated within their conference, but instead of having a first round bye, automatically moving on to the second round, they're going to need a little bit of help, as you know, they're going to need some chaos in the conference championship week if they want to sneak into that top 8 all of a sudden. And that's a big deal, because we remember what happened to North Dakota State last year. They did get upset in the first round, and granted, it was the eventual national champions, but you know, North Dakota State, they come in with higher expectations. We'll see if they can make a deeper run this year in year number 2. And then the final playoff spot that has been decided recently is going to go to the champions of the WAC conference, the Idaho Vandals. They were kicked out of the top 25 recently. This was a team that lost pretty convincingly to North Texas back in week number 14 of the season. And this is a team, you know, it's still a solid team. You know, they rock it out in the Kibbe Dome, obviously. They got some injuries there on the offensive side of the ball, but a 7-1 conference record, that is the best in the WAC conference. So that will be good enough to win the WAC championship, and that will also guarantee them a spot in the FCS playoffs. The interesting question is, you know, what seed do they get? Because depending on what seed they get and what matchup that they do end up with, they can definitely cause a decent amount of matchup problems. Now, as for what's left of this year, we got conference championship week. We got 5 games that are going to determine the final automatic qualifying spots for the FCS playoffs. To start this episode out, and you know, these games are a little bit out of order, so you'll work with me here. First game that we will be happening, ACC championship, where it's going to be Maine going up against New Hampshire for the ACC championship. Now, for New Hampshire, for them, it's an opportunity to get a top 8 seed, because this was a program that did also get upset last year. They lost to Tennessee Tech in the first round, and this was a team that could gone a little bit deeper last year. So a win here in the ACC championship will make sure that they get that bye to move into the second round. However, for the Maine Black Bears, it's different for them. It's life or death, literally. Maine comes into this championship game unranked. They are 6-5 overall, so it's been a solid season for Maine, led by their freshman quarterback, Flash Williams. So with that being said, and New Hampshire's only loss is to Maine as well, so we got to think about that. It is really difficult to beat the same team twice, but Maine is going to have to do just that if they want to go ahead, get into the FCS playoffs, and potentially steal a bid from one of these other leagues, because you know, even if Maine wins this game, they get to 7-5. I'm not sure if they even get ranked out of the top 25. So, you know, this would be a huge bid stealing moment here, where the ACC could get as many as 4 teams in the FCS playoffs. That would be really good for them. So we'll see how this game plays out and whether New Hampshire can take care of business this time around. But after that, we start getting into some top 25 matchups. It just gets better than this. Georgia Southern, they're sitting right on the edge, number 9 in the country. They win, they could possibly move into the top 8 and get that first round bye. However, Northwestern State, they come in, they're sitting in that bubble area right now as an at-large, number 22. We did see a couple of teams that aren't ranked in the top 25. They did get automatic qualifying bids, which is a big deal because that takes away from an actual top 25 team from making it into the FCS playoffs. So, I mean, bare minimum 2 teams that don't have top 25 bids. It's a must-win for Northwestern State once again, and it's a rematch from the Season 1 SEC Championship where these two teams did meet up, and Georgia Southern, they won on a last-second field goal, and it was a very painful way for Northwestern State to end the season. Do the Demons, do they get revenge here? They come in 9-2 overall, 2-game winning streak, but Georgia Southern, after a really sluggish start, 3-3 overall, they are on a 5-game winning streak right now. They are one of the hotter teams in FCS college football right now, led by Ikeda Woods, of course. It's going to be a heck of a battle in the SEC Championship. So following the SEC Championship, we have the Conference USA Championship, and it actually is the game of the week, matter of fact. So we'll have the Tulane Green Wave, who come in ranked number 10 in the country. They take on Eastern Carolina. Eastern Carolina, of course, they're fighting for actually, this is probably the most meaningful between these two teams. Eastern Carolina, they win. They are going to automatically get they're going to get a first-round bye, as that does qualify them for the top 8, obviously. However, Tulane is right on the outside of that. They're number 10 in the country right now, so, you know, they could get a home game, even if they lose this matchup in the Conference USA Championship. But a win against Eastern Carolina, that could very well be enough to get them into the top 8. And a year after, year number 1, they were expected to win the national championship. That did not quite happen, according to F1 Sports Magazine. Tulane could get that first round bye as well, and they were a team that's kind of flowing under the radar, right? We didn't really see many games for Tulane because they didn't really have too many top 25 matchups. So really interesting to see how this game turns out. It could be very close, but I'm going to give the edge to Eastern Carolina simply because they do have, at least on paper, a little bit of a better offense, or at least better roster, and I think their advantage in special teams is going to be the ultimate difference maker. So we then have 2 more games that are going to be happening in the 8 o'clock slot. We go to the MAC Conference Championship, same scenario. Number 7 Ball State taking on number 4 Kent State. Winning this game means whoever wins this conference championship gets a top 8 bid. Even Kent State, if Kent State loses, in the MAC championship against Ball State, there's still a scenario that they could still end up in the top 8 after all, because they shouldn't be punished too much for, losing to a top 10 team on a neutral site field. Plus, I think Kent State would get the benefit of the doubt as well if they lose this game, because they are the defending national champions, of course, and they definitely do deserve that benefit of the doubt, especially because they've played pretty well over the course of the year. They had one really interesting loss that we saw in gameplay, but 10-1 is still really good. Teams are pretty even. They're both C+ overall squads. Ball State has a slightly better offense, at least talent wise, but Kent State has been a little bit more consistent on the offense side of the ball. Plus, they do have the number 1 defense in FCS college football right now, averaging less than 205 yards of total offense per game that they are allowing. Plus, they have a great turnover margin. Ball State, number 1 in that. Should be one of the best games that we see in the MAC championship. And then we have the Big 12 championship to round things out down in Houston, Texas. We got a really exciting matchup, something I'm personally passionate about, because Texas Southern, could very well solidify their first playoff appearance, number 12 in the country, but they might not necessarily have to win this game, right? Now, if Texas Southern were to lose this game, that could put them on the bubble and be in danger of missing the FCS playoffs altogether, but they are going to have a challenge in the Big 12 Conference Championship because they are taking on arguably one of the hottest teams in the FCS right now, Alcorn State, who did just make their way in the top 25. They are literally at number 25 in the country, so they're on the same boat as the Maines, as the Northwestern States in the world. Their playoffs start right now. If Alcorn State cannot win this game, they are going to end their season. But again, Texas Southern, they're a really good football team as well, on a 7-game winning streak right now. One of the biggest winning streaks in college football at the moment. This Texas Southern team, they survived the scare. They showed some resiliency against Southern. And I think we're going to be in for a really exciting game. Both teams, they have top 35 offenses. We know about Michael Horn. He is currently, at least the last time that we checked the Heisman race, he was a Heisman frontrunner. So we'll see if that remains the case, and let's see if he can have another Heisman moment here to get his team into the playoffs for the very first time. But if Alcorn State wins, there's a scenario in which the Big 12 can get 2 teams into the playoffs, and that would make, you know, these teams that are in the bubble in other conferences, it's going to make them a little bit more uncomfortable. So guys, that's going to wrap things up here. Next episode, we are going to see gameplay from all 5 of these games, and I'm so excited for this episode. I love postseason action. I know you guys love postseason action, so if you're ready for that, as well as, you know, enjoying the final regular season games being featured here in today's FCS video, do me a huge favor, you guys. Go ahead, smack that like button for me, hit that subscribe button if you have to be brand new, and even hit that notification bell, because let's be honest, YouTube can be a little bit of a host sometimes in terms of getting videos out to you guys. We know this. Any content creator will tell you this. They feel some type of way. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and until then, I am going to sign off for the time being. But until next time, this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.